going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of I.K.P Paintworks here in Peoria, Arizona. As you can see, we got Scott's Cadillac here, cleaned up and ready to go home. Not sure if you guys watched the last video, but in the last video we mentioned that we were going to do a paint correction on this car, which involves some light sanding in spots, buffing out scratches, some pinchback, swirls, whatever's happened to the car in the last couple of years since we painted it. We got it all cleaned up and ready for PPF. PPF is paint protection film. He's going to have that applied on the car somewhere else so that he can begin driving this car whenever he wants without worrying about rock chips or it getting scratched when it gets clean or any of that stuff. So it's ready to go. Welcome back, like I said, and let's go see what we got going on out in the shop.
So we're starting to work on Frank's C10 here. Frank thought it was going to be just sand it down and skim it and fix some body work type stuff. But as you can see in here, they decided to put rockers on this. Sorry for the compressor in the background. And yeah, that's not how you install the inner structure for the rocker, and it's not even welded down here. I got about a 1/2 inch gap between the rocker and the inner, so if I go trying to plug weld that, it's going to roll this rocker in really far. So I think we just got into a big can of worms here. I think the best thing to do is probably going to be to cut this rocker back off so I can move that inner structure and actually weld it in properly, because this is just, it's not good. And if you look in here, they didn't even, like, there's giant holes in the floor on the inside there. I could see daylight through the bottom of that, so that's not very good. And yeah, it's just gonna be a lot more work than we were anticipating.
Like everything.
Yeah, like everything else, but this is pretty bad. Dylan can show you the cowl too. It's not much better what they did on the cowl. They just overlapped metal here to shave the antenna hole. So all that's gonna have to be cut out and redone.
And look at all the rust on the inside, never treated.
Yeah, they spray foamed it in here, in between the patch that they did and the louvers, and then just bonded over that. So yeah, that's just some of the stuff you deal with when you go to start restoring an old truck like this. even something that looks like it's been done, you know, this truck's been painted, and yeah, it's not very good. It's gonna be a little bit more work than we were expecting. So we're gonna get to it and just make the best out of it. Okay, so I got the outer rocker cut off. There wasn't much to cut it off because they didn't fully weld it on in the first place. So I cut that out. I cut some of the inner structure out just to clean it up and re-weld it in. It was pretty rusty. So what I'm gonna do now is I got the inner structure, I cut the tack welds loose and moved it where I needed it. I fit the outer to make sure that it was where it needed to be. And now I'm gonna cut through the inner and the floor pan at the same time so that when I go to weld it back together, it's perfect fitment. So that's what I'm gonna do right now.
Got ourselves a new project in today. This is for Jason. This is his Blazer. We're going to be doing a color sand and buff, pulling off all the trim, handles, bumpers, so we can sand it. It has not been sand and buffed yet. It's just been painted. Actually, pretty nice truck. So we're just going to clean up a few things on it and make it shine and get it back to him.
What are you doing in here, Hector?
Nothing?
Where's the door at?
I don't know, dude. Where'd it go? Oh, we'll just make a new one, you know? Oh, this is mine.
Okay, as you guys can see, I got my dually here behind me. Rob from Lindsay Towing's picking it up. He's going to send it over to Steve at Elevated Design so he can get all the audio hooked up. I didn't have time to get it all fired up and running for the Dino's Get Down show a couple weeks ago, so that's exactly why it's heading over there. Once I get it back from him, it'll be ready to drive and or the next destination for it, which who knows what that'll be, but we'll know shortly. So just an update on Steven's truck. It's moving along. It doesn't seem to look like maybe it's moving along very well, but it is. There's just so many little tedious details that have to be done on this truck to make it right before it could actually see any type of primer. Some of those details are the intersections here that are all fabricated and welded together and pieced together. This is where the welding box fits. All this stuff has to be bodywork, crisped up and straightened. All these seams got to be cleaned up. All these circles and holes and everything else has to all be sanded back around again once all the bodywork is done inside here. And the same process happens in here as the exterior, where we use a fiberglass filler first for strength and for build, and then we come back through with our regular 3M Platinum body filler to smooth it out and straighten everything. All these little details up in here, molding around this stuff, making sure all this stuff looks good in here. It's just a lot of tedious work. On the back of the truck, I'll bring you over here and show you the back of the truck, but back here, this back door, both these doors have really been a challenge because the doors only open so far. They do not come off. There is no adjustment to how they've been put on here. So when they open up, we had issues with them hitting after they were bodyworked and straightened. So we've had to go in and grind back the edges and clean all that up and do that multiple times until we got the doors where they have plenty of clearance and where the gap still looks pretty decent around the door. Back here in the back where the taillights have been welded on, all those pieces that were put together and fabricated for the taillights have to all be molded together, look like one, and then they have to be molded into the back of what you call this, the bed or the tailgate. Before that could happen, all the back had to get straightened out, which it's now straight. It's just now down to the details of molding everything in, making it look all uniform and molded in and clean and even on both sides. Once that part's completely finished up, Victor will move over to this side of the bed, which all of this is roughed in and been roughed in for a while now, but when it comes down to the details, he'll have to get this section of the bed to look like that side over there, so there'll be a little bit more skimming, a little more blocking, some taping, etc., to try to get both sides to look very, very similar, if not the exact same. Even though there is a cutout there and there isn't one here, we got to try to make both of these look the same. It'll slowly blend from a different transition back here into the wider transition in the front, just like it does on that side. So all that takes a little bit of time and work to dial all that in. Once we get that part done, then we'll be pulling the running boards off and doing the bodywork on the bottom portion of the bed that wraps around to the running board, and also along the bottom of the fender where it meets up the running board. So there's still quite a bit to do on this truck, and we are chipping away at it, but it's gonna take a little bit longer before we get this thing to the point where we could actually get primer on it. But just wanted to give you guys an update on the truck. We're still super pumped to see this thing painted. It's gonna be super cool, but it's gonna be a little bit more of a journey to get it there. So as for Manny's Blazer here, the top is looking really, really good. Dylan's got the back section on both the sides just about ready for primer. Probably has some pinholes to fill in, maybe a couple little minor things to take care of. Looks like some edge work here. Just little stuff, but it's all straightened out and looks really good. He's moved on to the top of it where it's got some big loads he had to fill in. He's basically got the whole top prepped and pretty much ready for its skim coats, it looks like, but he'll take care of that next week when he gets back from vacation. And hopefully sometime next week, I'm hoping we'll have this top ready for some high build primer. Man, it seems like we just got tops laying all over the place around here. So this top here, you can see it's all busted up. It needs some fiberglass work. This is for actually Carlos's Blazer that's next door, getting a chassis swap on it. We were gonna paint the whole truck, and then I guess that idea has changed and he is going to sell the truck now, I guess, and maybe get a different truck, I don't know, but he wants us to fix the top before he sells it. Something to do with Barrett Jackson. I'm not sure if this thing's going to Barrett Jackson or if he's got his eyes on another one that's at Barrett Jackson. I'm not really sure, but our basic plan for this has shifted to just repairing and reshooting the top. We got a ton of cracks all over the place we got to fix. Underneath here, it's got a big hole missing, and then of course where the shock goes, it needs to be all refiberglassed in. We'll have to get the glass pulled out of it, and then we'll get the whole top recoated. So that's something new we got in this week that will hopefully be starting here next week. And speaking of Blazers, let's go back in the booth and see where we're at with Jason's Blazer. Okay, so some of you at home might be going, wow, it seems like an awful lot of work just to color sand and buff to completely strip the truck. But what you have to understand is that this truck has not been sanded and buffed before. So where if it had been sanded and buffed and there was no texture, or it was relatively flat on the truck, we maybe then could come in here and mask off where the trim was, and maybe a DA sand and paint correction buff the rest of the truck and get it glossy that way. But the problem here is with the trim on, we're only able to sand up to just before the trim enough to where we could actually get a buff there and buff it out. The problem with that is you end up with a flat texture here and a peelier texture along the edge of the trim, which is very obvious if you're going to sand the rest of the vehicle flat, which is what Jason wants. He wants the vehicle sanded as flat as we can get it. Based on our observation of a 3-coat, clear coat job here, we're probably only going to be able to do 1,000 grit or maybe 800 really lightly and then switch to 1,000, but we haven't exactly decided that yet. But that is why we have the trim and all the pieces off the truck. The reason the door is off the truck is not because somebody stole it, Jason. It's because the bottom trim, we didn't have access to the bolts with the door on for some reason. And since we took it off to take that trim off, we're just going to leave it off, sand and buff it off on a cart or a stand, and then we'll put that bottom trim back on before we put the door back on the vehicle, which it actually did help out the guys next door, Hector, which you saw earlier when he was in here, you know, robbing things out for his side job. Right, Hector? But no, honestly, they're changing out the interior in the truck, I guess, having stuff reupholstered or whatnot. So that's why there's no interior in the truck, because there's more than just a sand and buff going on in this truck. We're working together with the guys over at Tray 5 to do whatever we got to do between the two of us to get this thing fixed up for Jason the way he wants it. So there's some progress on the truck. We've got this side basically all broke down. Probably got to remove the rear bumper, I'm not sure. And then we got to do the other side still. Poor Taylor went home sick. Manny's been working himself to the bone, not feeling well. So he went home yesterday sick. So we should be able to get back on this thing Monday, get this thing all completely torn down on the other side, and then we'll get it over in the buff stall, get it masked up and sealed up tight to the floor, and start getting it wet sanded for buff. That's really all I got today, or this week. Decided to only do one video this week instead of 2. Maybe I'm going to start doing it that way. I'm not sure yet, but thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like what you see, and we'll see you guys next time on the next episode.